Well, hello, everyone. This is Honorable Valencia Stovall, and today is February the 7th, and this is still season 6. And of course, we're excited about another episode of Issues and Answers. And you're listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEG Talk Radio, with a worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. And the topic and opinions that you will hear today are those of the show host, which is myself, and not WCEG Network. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio, and at WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support of us here on WCEG and also with our show that we have on today. So, of course, today is going to be exciting. We have a really good topic to talk about. And, of course, it's a little, we're going to hit some deep areas and heavy areas that sometimes people don't like to talk about, but we need to talk about them so we can find solutions to make our community better. So when you look at our topic today, which is Black families, Black plus Black leaders equals ? Solutions ? And so who's failing whom in our Black communities? So is it all on the Black leaders, or is it all on the communities, or like with the plus sign in there, is it, does it compile of both categories? So we'll discuss that on today. And, and if it came to another race, kind of talking about Black leaders in our community, what they're doing, of course, many of us would become offensive and probably say they don't have any right to speak about it. So that's why I'm going to take the liberty today to talk about it. We'll also talk about upcoming events and, of course, our popular segment, the Say What. So those are usually those surprising news things that you didn't even know about, or you may have known about, and you just want to say, what? Say what? So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's reflect on communities that were and still are led by our Black leaders in Georgia. Ask yourself, are they better off or are they worse? Well, I'll let you be the judge. Everything that I'll be speaking about today is based on your own opinion, and I'll let you be the judge. I'll just present some different topics and different things to talk about that I think are facts in my opinion. Also, we have to have accountability of the people that we elect, and sometimes we elect people based on race, on their color. And with the expectation that if we elect Black leaders, that they are going to make sure that they are looking out for the Black community that came out to vote for them. Sometimes that happens, sometimes they don't. And how is it you look at housing, you look at schools, our education, you look at jobs, you look at small businesses. And even when you look at education, you all know I talk very heavily about education because it is the foundation for anything that we do here in our country, or even if we travel abroad. Education is the key. And it's not happening like it should in our community. So when you look at the education compared to white counterparts and even schools that are in the more affluent Black areas, why are our lower performing schools located in our lower income communities? Why are they still underperforming when we have majority Black leaders that are in charge, so to speak, of the everyday operations of what's happening in our school system? Now, also, what happened to the concept of everything rises with the tide? So, sometimes you heard that particular slogan, and so the tide is gonna raise all the boats. And so we believe in that. Okay, if we elect the Black leaders, then they're gonna help raise that tide. They're the tide. They're considered the tide, and they're gonna raise the boat in our community, which means our community should be doing much better. And it's not that we can't do any better. It's not that we don't have the education. It's not that we don't have the expertise. None of that. We have some very qualified, very smart, intelligent Black leaders and people in our community that helped work together with the Black leaders to make it possible. When you look at the number of years in your own community of where you have had Black representation, do you see more Black businesses striving, receiving more government contracts? Or I'm just asking you to look in your own community. Does your local city or county have a minority participation program? If not, why? If so, what level of compliance is applied to that particular department? I'm just asking questions, y'all, for you to go back and answer these questions. When you look at what's happening across the state, and you look at those areas, like I said, that are majority led by Black leaders, that is what we're talking about today. Are they better off? Or are they better? And whose responsibility actually is it? And who's causing our communities to fail? So I took the time to do a little research on some stuff that I already knew, and then I want to reinforce it. So I'm gonna tell you, let's talk about a brief synopsis or story about one particular Black leader who decided to make sure that Blacks became millionaires and possibly billionaires through contracting and leveling the playing field. His name is Honorable Mayor Maynard H. Jackson. He was the first Black mayor of Atlanta and the first Black to be a mayor of a major Southern city. By the way, mine's and my sister's alma mater, which is Southside Comprehensive High School, located in Southeast Atlanta, was renamed to Maynard H. Jackson High School. So he does have a high school. It took a lot of years, y'all, but he does have a high school named in his honor. There was an airport. Some of you all have, probably if you've flown the airport, you have flown on a plane, you probably visited this airport. I know you heard about it. It was located in Clayton County, and at that time it was called Hartsfield Airport. Now it belongs to the city of Atlanta, where Mayor Jackson helped create an Atlanta that boasted the world's busiest airport, which is now called Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. He allowed minorities to do business with the government and hosted the Olympic Games and attracted people to a Black Mecca, and this is according to the AJC article dated June 2003, and it was titled From 2003, Maynard Jackson, 1938 to 2003, A Lion of a Man. And in that same article, Mayor Shirley Franklin, who was a Jackson protege and former first woman and Black woman mayor of Atlanta, quoted in this same article, he was a lion of a man, because he was very tall, who lived with courage. He ushered in a new generation of leaders. He ushered in a new generation of leaders, y'all, and never wavered from his love and commitment to the people of Atlanta. Love and commitment to the people of Atlanta. He was the great-grandson of slaves. Jackson was only 35 when he was first elected mayor. So sometimes people say, oh, people too young, they don't have the experience, they don't know anything, but he was only 35 being elected of the city of Atlanta's mayor. During his first 8-year stint in the city hall, so he was elected actually he served 2 terms. They weren't consecutive, but he did serve 2 terms. But during his first term, which is 8 years, which was 2 4-year terms, he launched programs intended to empower neighborhoods, raise the profile of Black pride, included minorities in the city's economic boom. I'm gonna say that again. Included minorities in the city's economic boom and began building the foundation that one day would land the Summer Olympics. So many of you all remember about the Olympics when it came to the city of Atlanta. Well, of course, the foundation had to be laid, and Mayor Maynard Jackson was the lead leader who laid that foundation so that Atlanta could participate in the 1996 Olympics. Well, you know, many white Atlantans remember Jackson as well. And with them remembering Jackson as the face of Black power, Sam Massell, who was Atlanta's past white mayor, and this is still in that same article, the AJC article, And you can Google Maynard Jackson's name and this article will come up. Jackson was a thorn. Okay, so let me go back. Sam Massey was Atlanta's past white mayor. So Atlanta had been having mayors up until Maynard Jackson was elected, had been having white mayors. Massey was defeated by Jackson in the historic 1973 election. And Massey quoted in this article, Jackson was a thorn in the side on many occasions, but I think most respected the role he pursued and the strength he demonstrated with his success. So as Black leaders, you got to first of all, have a vision, and you have to pursue it and have the strength to demonstrate with your success. That's how our Black leaders need to be. Some, I'm not talking about all of them. We have some that are doing a great job, but some of them are dragging their feet. And this is what we're talking about today on today's show. And so I encourage you all, like I said before, to read more about Mayor Jackson and his phenomenal work that he did in setting the foundation for Atlanta that still exists today. If you go to visit Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, you will see many Black-owned businesses that are there that were able to receive contracts under his leadership. And also, myself personally, I've heard many stories about how Mayor Jackson engaged with the community, and even saw it for myself. My dad, Valencia Stovall, who worked in both his campaigns and was his community liaison, shared a lot of information. My sisters and I got a chance as young girls to meet Mayor Jackson on several occasions. And so I'm not just talking about what I heard, but I'm also talking about what I witnessed. And that's important. And with the city of Atlanta has the 25% minority contracts and the key is the policy that was established by Mayor Maynard Jackson. It said that the contracts, that he created a contract and compliance department in the city of Atlanta. And when he put that in place, what it said was that every contract, major contract that was going to be given out, and it didn't matter who it belonged to, if it was done in the city of Atlanta, you had to have that participation for the minority participation. And so, when I talked with my dad about what I was going to talk about today, he said that Black leaders today are not bold. He said, and they're not strong enough to step out. And he said, and so the question is, do they still possess the love and commitment to their constituents when they first decided to run for office? And that's an answer, again, you must decide upon. I'm talking about leadership from the city mayor, city council, county commission, state representative, state senator, your elected judges, the district attorney, solicitor general, tax commissioner, clerk of the court, U.S. representatives that are in Washington, D.C., the U.S. senators that are in Washington, D.C., throw in the president and vice president as well, or any other elected position that I did not mention. Do they still possess the love and commitment to their constituents? And so this was when he did the contract and compliance department, that was during his first term, during his first tenure of those first four, let me see, the second part of his 8 years, but second part of his 8 years. And so one of the things I want to share, and I've mentioned this before on previous shows that we've had, was that my family was able to benefit from the contract and compliance department that was put in place. And so many times you hear, we talk about things that are going on and well, she don't know what she's talking about. How does she know that this is what worked? Well, I'm talking from experience. So once this contract compliance department was put in place, during that time that had to do with us, in 1991, the Georgia Dome that you all now know as Mercedes-Benz was built. That stadium was built. There was an RFP that was put out for merchandising of non-food. So they had put out an RFP request for proposal for all the contracts inside of the dome, which include the food part. But the part that I'm going to talk about is the merchandising of non-food. So anything that you didn't eat, if you came to the dome from 1991 to 2008, that was the time that we had the joint venture partnership. Then you purchased merchandise from the stands that we helped manage at the dome. And so our contract was a two-part type of contract. We had the contract as a joint venture partner, which we had a majority white partner that was out of California. And they also were in charge of a lot of other major stadiums across the United States, sports venues across the United States. And so that was that part of the joint venture partnership, and which was the one that required the minority participation. And they could not get the contract unless they had complied with their minority participation. It didn't matter that the Georgia Dome was owned by the state of Georgia, but because it was located in the city of Atlanta, you all listen very carefully to what I'm saying. Because it was located in the city of Atlanta, they in the contracts had to comply with what the requirement of that policy was for the city. So what's the difference in our local governments that have majority Black leaders in place, creating a policy that no matter what business or contracts are done in that jurisdiction, that it has to comply with it. And 25% is not a lot. You think about it, you still have 75% that's left, but what you're doing is help building up the Black community. Also, with this particular contract at the Dome, we got a chance to. It wasn't how we had the contract. We contracted out over thousands of vendors to come in and work at the Georgia Dome during that time. And it was hard, the contract was very hard dealing with the white majority in that contract, because of course they had money. When it came down to disputes, we had many disputes about the contract, and yet legal disputes that you end up having to handle legally. And we were a very small Black business. We didn't have a lot of money for lawyers. So, we got some support and help along the way. But the point is, we still got the opportunity to get our foot in the door, to learn a different, even though we've always done printing, promotional printing, but now we got the chance to see the merchandising side of printing. So it was very beneficial to us, and we left the contract. We decided not to renew the contract because it did get very frustrating and hard. And as new leadership came into place in the city of Atlanta, sometimes the focus, when you get new leaders in, this goes back to what I'm talking about now, sticking with the plan. Sometimes new leaders don't see the same vision, and they don't keep and make sure it's a priority. It's like, okay, we have all these Black businesses have come up or whatever. Okay, we don't have to focus on that anymore. But whenever you're in that minority situation, you always have to have some kind of compliance to make sure the majority is doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not treating you wrongly. So with that, we had allowed people to be able to work as vendors on 2 Super Bowls, all the Falcon home games, major concerts, WWE, the wrestling match, Monster Truck, college playoffs. So all those events that came to the Georgia Dome were dealing with merchandising and non-food things. That is what we managed. And so that was the other part of the contract, was the actual management part of the stands. So just imagine, that's just a brief story. I could go on with a lot of things that happened during that process. And our business is just one of many, one of hundreds that were able to benefit from having in place a policy for contract and compliance. See, you can have a policy, but if you don't have the compliance part to the policy or the accountability to the policy, that's where things can go wrong and go wrong fast. So you have to have those two, they go hand in hand. Okay. Next, when we talk about contracts, if you all just imagine if all the Black communities led by Black leaders took the approach to incorporate, like I said earlier, and I'm gonna re-emphasize it, minority participation program and helping Black companies get established. So you can have a program in place, and this is the other tricky part. And this is what I saw happen down at the state capitol when I was a state representative. There was legislation passed that allowed for minority participation when it came to transportation, Department of Transportation Department. And so a DBE office was set up doing business with disadvantaged Black enterprise business was set up. Now, the issue is when you go back and look at, okay, how many Blacks actually participated in that particular program, you might see that there wasn't a lot. So then the argument for those who was against it, or even saying there should be no set aside with contracting, even though the federal government does it, and the federal government does it in federal contracts with transportation, but not in education. But they do it with transportation. And so with that, and that's how it was kind of mimicked with that contract of compliance with that minority participation. But if you don't have the businesses to participate, then how is it that you can be able to say that you're helping the Black community? Well, that's the other part of leadership, that when you go out and create businesses, because those Black businesses are going to end up hiring Blacks and others to work that are from that community. And so, but you have to help them create business. You have someone that's very good in different areas, and you know that you look at the whole list of what is majority done with contracting and on the local city or local county or even the school system. Well, a majority of the contracts given that. On the city and the county, it could be transportation. You know, the redoing of the bridges, the roads, not the bridges, but the roads, repaving them. Sometimes you need the patchwork done. But that's where the Department of Transportation came in. And they were saying, okay, if we can get some of the Black business to be created, they can start out with patchwork and then, of course, grow into eventually they will be the prime contractors and not the subprime contractors. Because the prime contractors are the major contract, and then they sub out. And you can put provisions in there for that. There are some local jurisdictions that have provisions in that. But the other part to it, like I said, is creating an opportunity for Blacks to own small business and giving them the support that they need to sustain. That means they're going to need education. If they've never started a business before, they're going to need education on how to run that business, how to make sure they're paying their taxes, how to make sure that they have the correct licensing, how to make sure their human resource department is doing right and not discriminating when it comes to hiring practices. What they need to do financially wise to make sure their business becomes financially sound. How to be able to partake into the SBA program when it comes down to money being able to be borrowed for manufacturing, for any other business at low interest that goes through the major banks. How do we get them situated and set up to be able to be successful? That comes back to Black leaders. They have to have the will. Remember I talked about earlier about the compassion, having the love and commitment to the people to make sure that they are getting what they need to get done in order to be effective and long-standing in their commitment. You can't have a small group that becomes successful and then forget about the rest of them. I got mine. They just know how to figure it out themselves. No, this is our community. And who suffers at the end of our young people who don't get the exposure that they should because there's no resources in our community. Resources can come if resources are coming from our businesses. They're the ones that can put back into our community that can be able to help sustain and make our community strong. In America, 60% of the businesses are small businesses. And of course, they become medium-sized businesses. And then we look at some even become major corporations, what they call big businesses, Fortune 500. Why we don't have a lot of Fortune 500 Black businesses? It's no reason. It's leadership, and then it's the community. That's why I said Black community plus Black leaders have the solution. Now I put the question mark in there, but you have the solution. Now, let's even go even further. The fact is that this discussion has nothing to do with being against white, against Hispanic, against Asian, or any other race. It has nothing to do with that. We're talking about how do we help improve our Black communities when you have Black leaders who more than likely the majority of the time was elected because the Blacks who elected them believed that they were going to have fair representation and they were going to look out for their community. Has that been going on? Has that been happening? Can you look at your own community and see where you've seen a uptick, tremendous uptick when it comes to Black community versus other communities? That's for you to decide. That's what the answer. That's something that you have to answer. I'm just bringing out the issues for you to be able to come back and find the solutions to these questions. Now, going back to that, what I just said, it's known that other races, when they have businesses, they make sure that they allow for opportunities for their people, their race. So why does it always seem like, you can't do it because you're a Black leader? You're going to be looked at as not paying attention to the other races. No, I told you it was 75% that was left. You just talking about 25%. And so it's nothing wrong with that for being able to look out, because that's the community that you represent. It's not like it's not the community you represent. This is the community you represent. You elected to represent. So you want to know, what is the excuse even for our underperforming schools? When you have majority Black leaders over the school board, and being over the school board, they have the power to hire and fire and also give performance reviews of the superintendent, who is the person that's responsible for the day-to-day operations of the execution of what the school board leaders said that they want to see happen in the community. So when you think about that, they also have control over the money, how the money is spent. And to a certain extent, they have control over the curriculum. Not all the control, but they have a control over the curriculum of who they purchase, the actual companies that they're going to purchase from. It goes back to contract, right? Yeah, it does. It also, they have control over work-based learning. Work-based learning, for those of you all who might not know, is when you have our young people that have completed majority of their the hours that are required for graduation. Now they need what's called real life experiences. So work-based learning is where they would actually go out and work in corporate America, in the business world, to get those additional experiences that they will not get just by sitting in the classroom. Because there are things beyond the classroom. The teachers can't teach them everything. They can teach them the foundation. And then it's up to us as a community to make sure that they are well-rounded as students who are graduating from our local high schools and going into college. So those Black leaders over those schools are responsible for how effective that work-based learning program is. They're responsible for the exposure for our youth to things outside of their neighborhoods. Many of our kids that are in our Black communities, unless they have parents that like to travel and have the wherewithal to go and visit different places, more than likely they're not going. Some of them have never even been on the airplane. Some of them have never driven outside the state of Georgia. So, not saying it's all the school responsibility. I'm just giving y'all an example of the power that our Black leaders have. And your question is, are they executing? How they're using the power that's been given to them by you, the voters, who voted them in. Now, when you look at our value system, with Black leaders and Black communities, that relationship, we're holding them accountable. What's the value system? Compromised when Africans were taken as slaves and then indoctrinated with the value system of their slave owners. These are some conversations that some people don't want to have, but this is the truth. It happened. You can't erase history. It's there. So even sometimes when I speak with some of my Nigerian friends, we talk about the difference in the value system of Africans and African Americans. Even when you look at the state that we live in, and just because the state of Georgia does not have an international business office on the continent of Africa, and this is true, this is what I found out when I was a state rep, and I went to every 2 years when you're elected, you have training, the biennium training, which is done for all the state reps and Senate members and others of theirs from over the different departments. And they always give an outlook or update about the economic business dealing with the state and what's going on economic wise. And I saw this map. It came up, big map of the entire world, and it showed where Georgia had business offices located in across all the continents. There were two places that I remember that I did not see a business office in. That Australia was one, and Africa was the other one. Now, you might think, oh, okay. But they had offices in all other parts of the other continents. And so even though our state does not have an office on the continent of Africa, that means that they're not creating business opportunities with Africa and the businesses in Africa and with the state of Georgia and the businesses and people that live here in Georgia. It's not happening. You look at, and so just because it's not there, and you look at that's the second largest continent in the world, but it has the most natural resources located on it. Why don't we have a business office on from Georgia on the continent? It was one in South Africa, but that was back in 2000 and I don't know if it might have been 17. I think the last time it was. It might be a little bit before then. Might have been 13, but it is not recent. We don't have one now. But just because we don't have one as a state, that does not mean that any local jurisdiction that's majority Black leaders located in. Remember, I told you they got the power. They the one that create the laws, change the laws locally. That does not mean that prevents them from establishing an international business relationship with the continent of Africa. Look at how many jobs and small business can be created. This is new money. This is money that you ain't seen before. So you ain't taking nothing from nobody else. You just establish a business office to create better opportunity for your local jurisdiction. I'm not saying it's not happening. I hadn't heard of it. I traveled around the state when I was a state rep, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I do know about the state of Georgia. I know that for a fact, but I don't know what the local jurisdictions are doing. And if they are, you all give them a shout out. Kudos to them. Matter of fact, you can send me an email at contact@ghoststovall.com. Contact contact@ghoststovall.com. And if they're doing it, I'll bring them on the show and let them tell us how they did it and what's happening. But I know one thing that's most important is that solutions, there are always solutions. If there's a problem, God always gives us a knowledge to find a solution. There's no problem created where there's not a solution. It might take a little bit longer to get to the solution, but there's a solution. But you have to have the willingness. And you remember that what I said earlier about Mayor Manley Jackson having a commitment about him being the mayor and making sure that he was going to get things done. When I told you that earlier, when he said he was a thorn in some of people's side on many occasions, but he was most respected. The role that he pursued and the strength he demonstrated with his success. So you get our Black leaders got to learn how to be thorns and not just running their mouth. We need some action in our community. Our community deserves it, and our community has to have it. Our Black leaders, let's talk about solutions. These are just some things I want to throw out. I don't have all the answers to everything, but these are just some things I want to throw out. Black leaders must meet with each other on a regular basis, not just in a time of crisis. Now, when a crisis breaks out, you'll see everybody gathering together. But we can't be reactive. We have to be proactive. We have to get on top of things before they happen. We already know we have issues that are going to come up in our communities because of the COVID. We know that there are going to be some long-standing additional things that we never even thought about at the time before COVID that we now see is going to be an issue. So it's time for us to get on it. Our economics is going to be affected. Our housing is going to be affected. Our education is going to be affected. Our small businesses are going to be affected. Our jobs are going to be affected. So that's Black leaders, let's get together, let's meet. Y'all need to meet. set the agenda and stick to it. In one particular county, they met with the community. They had everybody come to the meetings. They had little sticky notes out on the wall, compiled this comprehensive plan, 10-year comprehensive plan. And just so you all know, every local jurisdiction is required by state law to submit a comprehensive plan. So just so you all know that. So this plan was submitted. And if I look back from the time that I was attending meetings and other people, I wasn't elected. But where is that plan now? Is it being implemented? Did it change because the leadership changed? That shouldn't be so. It should be if the community said this is what we want, then the community has to put their foot down and say, no matter who is elected or who is re-elected, this is the plan and we're going to stick to it. When you look at Forsyth and Cherokee counties about 20 years ago, and y'all have heard me say this before, people were not even looking at them being a part of Metro Atlanta. Forsyth, who? Coming. Wasn't that what Oprah went to? And then Cherokee, where is Cherokee? You didn't know anything about those particular counties. But now you say Forsyth, everybody eyebrows raise up. You hear Cherokee, oh, they now considered to be part of Metro Atlanta. But not looking at with them being a part of Metro Atlanta. And I've attended some meetings. I spoke with some leaders who represent in those areas, especially when I was elected. I would go and talk to them. What are y'all doing in y'all county? Why you introduce this particular bill that just affect your county? And they would have conversations with me and explain, oh, we're doing this. We're going to plan on doing this. I was also a part of the Economic Development Academy, Georgia Economic Development Academy. That was through the Department of Community Affairs, DCA, for the state. And when I went through that training, we got a chance to visit other counties. So I'm always listening and taking in what I hear, and then trying to figure out how can I bring that back to the area I represented. Well, when I would bring it back, of course, everybody was not so receptive to it. So at that point, you end up having to work in silos as an elected official, and that's what happened in many of our communities. I have some very good friends that are elected officials that are doing an outstanding job. But the issue is that they're having to do it solo. You shouldn't have to do it solo. You got to work together. And it can't be, no more eyes, mine, and mines. It has to be us, we, and ours. But getting back to that whole thing about Forsyth and Cherokee, what I gathered from all those meetings and talking with all those people is that they came up with a comprehensive growth strategy plan, and they stuck to it. No matter who was elected, and the community had a buy-in to hold the leaders accountable. And if you didn't continue on with the plan that was put in place, your butt had to go home. You weren't gonna be elected no more. Or if you were elected and you act like you weren't understanding what the plan is, you had community people, even your neighbors or your church members would come up to you and say, hey, what's going on? This is the plan that we set in place. Why are you deviating from the plan? It was everybody working together. And now you can see the result of sticking to a plan, no matter what, sticking to the plan. So our Black leaders, like I said, must cease from being about I, my, and mine, and be about us, we, and ours. I challenge you today, those of you who are listening to me on this live or end up listening on the recording, that today, as a member of the Black community, for you to ask your Black leaders, what is the plan and when will it be executed? What is the plan and when will it be executed? Remember, as elected officials, they have the resources and expertise at their fingertips. They got it there. I know what I'm talking about. Our communities can be great, and they deserve to be great. But it starts with us, it starts with you, and it starts with me. We have to hold our Black leaders accountable. And as a community, our part, that's why I said Black communities plus Black leaders equals solutions. So You got to have the two working together. It's not all on the Black community. It's not all on the Black leaders, but the leaders do hold a higher responsibility because they agreed and they said they wanted to run and be your leader of your community. So I thank you all. We're going to go into our announcements now, but remember, what is the plan and when will it be executed? So as we go into announcements, 7 Pillars is having their mission, Wipe It Clean. One of their, they're asking for donations and they're offering Clorox wipes. So, you know, in this time of the virus, everybody wants to keep everything clean. Why not help support 7 Pillars Career Academy located over in Forest Park? The wipes you get 80 count you get the wipes are 80 counts and you get 3 packs for $10. 1 case, which is 6 pack, is $18. 7 cases, which equals to 42 packs, is $120. Make sure you call them today. They can give you their cash app so you can send in the money and they'll work out how you're going to get your Clorox wipes. 404-500-1294. 404-500-1294. Or you can just Google 7 Pillars Career Academy. I'm also collaborating for another year for the I Am Powerful Teen Summit, Life Monopoly. And it's going to be Saturday, February the 19th. This is actually the 4th annual one that's being held. It's the third year that I've actually supported and been one of the co-hosts of it. It's going to be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So we have 2 sessions. And this is for middle, high school, and adults up to age 21. It's going to be at the Northwest Library in Riverdale. And you must pre-register. Go to change the number 4 for hope. changeforhope.org. Change, CHANGE, the number 4, hope, HOPE.org. Or you can be looking on, we've been posting it. And you want to know what they're going to be doing. Okay, our students will go through real life simulations because the theme is Life Monopoly. They will receive scenarios based on everyday situations, then visit the exhibitors listed on their scenarios to help them find solutions. And we'll also have other general exhibitors offering valuable resources. That's Saturday, February the 19th, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And one example, I'll give you a quick example of a scenario. Congratulations, you just got your first job. The employer wants to set up a direct deposit so your checks can go into your financial institution on payday. Where do you go? Well, of course, as adults, we know, but you know, young people don't know. Those who have to start working. And so, of course, the answer would be the bank. So the student would actually would go to the bank to talk to them about how to be able to open up an account for direct deposit. Another example I'll give you real quickly. We're running out of time. You must sign your new lease for your first apartment. And before you get the keys, you must set up all your utilities, including electricity, gas, and water. You have already set up your water and electricity, and each required $100 for your deposit. The gas company checks your credit and now requires $250. Yep, that happened in our community. That does happen. So how much will you have spent on utilities after paying the gas company? Well, I know some of y'all not quick in math and I only have a little time, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you the answer. You would have spent $450 on utilities. So those are some of the scenarios that we will be giving to the students. And parents, you are definitely welcome to come out and join us on that day. All right, single parents. We are looking for you, single parents. On tomorrow will be the deadline for nominating that special single parent that you know, male or female. We do not discriminate. Tuesday, February the 8th is our final deadline for nominating a single parent for the Legacy Builders Award. You all know March the 21st every year is designated as Single Parent Day in Georgia. And we're going to recognize our single parents. It won't be March 21st, but we'll have some events going on sometime during that week just to talk about single parents. But the actual awards event is going to be held in August, the first Saturday in August. But we're doing the nominations now so that we can make sure they're recognized at the state capitol. And so the deadline is February the 8th. That's tomorrow. Go to https://nationallg.org. nationallg.org. And these nominations are free to submit. So go to nationallg.org. nationallg.org. That's the National Leadership Group, to put in your nominations. All right. We have about 14 minutes left for our very popular segment, Say What? So I'm going to tell y'all some things that's been going on. And, you know, the Georgia General Assembly has been in session now. This is week 5. They have probably about 8 more weeks to go. They've been making and changing and creating laws for all of us who live or do business in Georgia. Be sure you can watch them online at legisga.gov. That's legis.ga.gov. You can click on the House or the Senate, whichever one you want to do. If you want to go back and forth, you can do that too. And so I'm going to highlight a few bills which made their way to the Say What section and some other things that just happened along the way. So HB 888 prohibits the teaching of many subject areas dealing with race relations in our country's history. Now, you just got to hear me talking about race relations. There are about 7 categories. So example, one says it's prohibited from teaching against one race being superior or inferior. Another part of that bill says that the U.S., they're prohibiting teachers or anyone in the school system, K through 12, public schools, from teaching that U.S. is a systemically racist country. So they can no longer say that the U.S., if this bill passes, it has not passed, it hasn't got out of committee, but if it passes, that could never be stated in the classroom. Violations could be withholding of 20% of the state QBE. QBE is quality basic education funds. Those are the monies that the state gives to the local school districts. And so is this bill trying to hide the knowledge for this generation and future generations about the negative impact slavery has had on Blacks in this country and other countries which participated in the slave trade? Say what? Yeah. So next bill, SB 375, prohibits teaching of divisive concepts by Georgia public K through 12 schools. Divisive. Then there's another bill, Senate Bill 377, that prohibits teaching of divisive concepts by Board of Regents. And the Board of Regents, for you all who don't know, are in charge of all the universities, state-run universities in Georgia, state universities and colleges. And then this applies to the State Board of Technical Colleges and Universities, local boards of education, and local school systems. You know, the question is, what is considered divisive concepts? By whose definition? Are these 2 bills trying to do a cover-up as well on the worst time, a cover-up on the worst time in this world's history of enslaved Africans? Say what? Okay, next, a bill for Gwinnett County School Board members was introduced for them to be nonpartisan. It passed out the Senate last week. An amendment was offered by Democrats, and the author of the bill was a Republican. The amendment was offered by Democrats to make all school board elections nonpartisan. So nonpartisan means you cannot define or be able to say that you're Republican or Democrat or independent, but in this case, a Democrat or Republican. So most of the time you go in to vote, you might ask for a Democratic ticket or a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot. So what they're saying is that they want all the Gwinnett County school board members to not have to declare what particular party they're a part of. So the Democrats said, okay, why not make all the school board elections nonpartisan? That amendment didn't pass, but the actual bill passed for Gwinnett County. So you may think, what's so wrong? And then that bill passed out of the Senate. So you might think, what's so wrong about nonpartisan elections? Yeah, they shouldn't have to declare, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Well, it depends on who you ask. Is it really about nonpartisanship or something else, like trick the voters by not letting them know which party the candidate belongs to. Say what? Okay, got another one for you. Wind it down on time. Cobb County Democrats held a press conference last week about the redistricting of maps in Cobb County for the school, for the county, school, and cities. And so these particular maps that they did, they talked with the community, they came up with maps, they submitted them to the legislative body, the state legislators. Well, the Republican legislators changed the maps. At this press conference that was held by the Democrats, a reporter ended up asking one of the Republican legislators a question. So the Democrats was at the podium talking about the what happened with the bill. The Republican was standing, I'm assuming, over to the side. And so one of the reporters asked the Republican a question. So the Dem who was leading the press conference motioned the Republican up to the podium to respond, allow him to respond. Now, normally, you all, when a certain party, political party holds a press conference, the opposing party never comes to the podium to answer a question. But after the Republican begins answering the questions, you can see the Democrats in the background looking confused and realize what mistake they made by motioning up the Republican to answer the question. And then they came to the podium to stop the Republican from answering any other questions. Now, after the press conference, the Democrats put out a video of the press conference, but it was altered, it was edited. And it was edited to look like the Republican just came to the podium without being invited. An AJC reporter made a Twitter post saying that the Republicans hijacked the press conference. Then there was another report where the Democrats said that the Republican had taken over the press conference. So just so happened, there was another reporter there at the press conference. And they posted the entire video unedited, which clearly showed the Republican didn't hijack the press conference. So the claims that the Democrat had and the AJC reporter about the Republican had to be refuted. And the AJC reporter did come back and refute that it wasn't hijacked. Now, the moral of this story is, remember Robert's Rules of Order. Never give up the mic when you're presiding over the meeting because it's hard to get it back. And that's what I actually tweeted in my response about what happened. So who do you believe nowadays in politics? Say what? Yeah, so last one. HB 999, which is a school choice bill, which you all know, as I talked about in our last episode about school choice. It's going to allow $6,000 in state funds for parents to use for expenses they consider important for their child outside of public schools. Now, you all know I always say it's the parents' choice, whether they want public, private, homeschool, online school, whatever way they want to educate their children, they feel it's going to be best. That should be their choice and not the government choice. Okay, so the opponents of this bill says that the funds should not be diverted, but put towards the local school district. And what I say is local schools already get eSPLOS and they get local taxes that estimate till about 60% of your local taxes paid. Has nothing to do with the state funds, so they already get these two pots of money. Now, why aren't there questions about the accountability of those funds that the school districts now get outside of what the state funds that are allocated, which is about, they call it $5 million, it's allocated to each to the school districts. Now, if there's a concern that and then there was another concern that was brought up in the hearing, that low-income parents might not have enough money to add to the $6,000 if they want to send them to a private school. Then what I say is that the local funds cover the remaining costs because the students aren't being educated at the local school anyway. So why are they keeping the money? So if you believe $6,000 is not going to be enough for a parent, if I was a parent, I want my child to attend a private school, or I wanted some other options as far as additional tutoring, other things that I think my child might need, therapy or whatever, and it's not enough, then that local school districts kick in that other money they get from my local taxes as a taxpayer, because you paying taxes to the local government, but they're not educating your child. Okay, so I think that's the solution. So is the government making it harder for parents to make decisions on their child's education by making sure all of your tax dollars and those of the parents who stay at the school, who stay there in their community, that money stays on the local school level? We allow tax dollars to pay for Pell Grant. For all of y'all who use Pell Grant, I have. Those were tax dollars that were used for Pell Grant. Now, we allow those dollars to go to private colleges and universities, and you don't hear any arguments about that. So why is there always an argument about K through 12 education when parents want to be able to provide other options or want to use other options? That's my say word on that. Yes, it happens. So our time has caught up with us. We've had a very good conversation today about Black communities plus Black leaders equals ? Solutions ? So those solutions, the reason I left the question marks they're up to you as the community as to whether you're going to have solutions to what's going on in your community. We will be back here on our next show, which will be Monday, February the 21st. Remember, we have the first Monday and the third Monday at 4 p.m. Here on WCEG, and also on other platforms that you can find us on. You know, we take great pride in making sure that we're educating you on those things you might not think about unless you are in the situation to be concerned about. So our special guest for next time will actually be a Superior Court judge. So we'll get a chance to ask about, you know, what does a Superior Court judge do? Many of us go in the ballot box and we vote, but we don't know what does a judge do unless you had to go to court. You find out then, but you only find out what dealing with your case. But you never know the magnitude of what all individuals have to go through just to be a judge, and also what other. That's a huge, huge responsibility of being a judge. So we're going to get a chance, hopefully, if the judge's schedule still aligns with ours. If not, we're going to have another judge, hopefully a probate court judge. So many of you all might not know probate. Yeah, that deals with property and some other things. They also deal with marriage in some places, marriage certificates. Marriage and gun laws. So y'all been hearing a whole lot about gun permits and all of that. So we'll do that. Quickly, I have 2 minutes left. I want to acknowledge our sponsors for the I Am Powerful Teen Summit. Shout out to Deidre Poindexter, who's the lead person on this project, who brought me in, and Clayton County Library System, Dedicated Realty, the Women's Council, KBCN Media Group, GYCC, which is Georgia Youth Career Center, Forever CNA Trucking, Global 7, National NID Housing Counseling Agency, and Ride to the Olympics, Headshots, LDL Teacups, Royal Diadem International Consortium, Necrosi Catering, Mix 106 Radio, Synovus Bank, X Lab, Stanley and Clementine Rivers, Poindexter Transportation, Country Financial, Your Resume, Your Future. And I think that's it. And thank you for those committee members who've been faithfully meeting with us as we continue to plan for this. So remember, tomorrow is the deadline for single parent nominations, nationallg.org. Go there, make your nominations for your single parent to be recognized in the state of Georgia. And also the I Am Powerful Teen Summit. It's going to be Saturday, February the 19th. Go to Change for Hope, change4hope.org to register your teen. And if you're someone that wants to participate, be a volunteer, definitely reach out to contact at ghoststovall.com. Thank you so very much. Our time is up. Enjoy your evening and be safe. Thank you.
Okay, Valencia, thank you so much. Good show.
Woo.
Yeah, that was a good one. You had some definitely good information. You got a moment, I'll call you in a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.